Welcome back to Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance podcast featuring Zach Nathan of Sweet Leap. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Henry Harrison podcast, Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance. Today we are very pleased to have Zach Nathan on with us. He is a repeat entrepreneur. Now we've become friends. We actually live in the same city in Dallas, introduced by another mutual friend. And he has a company that's very interesting called Sweet Leap. And we're going to learn a lot about that and other things about Zach. Hello, Zach.
Hey, Henry. Glad to be
So,
here.
yeah, good. And I like your background. That's pretty cool. I just got to ask because it's there. Are you a guitar collector or do you actually play guitars?
I actually play guitar. I have a very small collection. The entirety of my collection is behind me, plus one electric guitar. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I've been playing guitar for, about almost 30 years now.
Wow, wow. So, in a band, at a synagogue, where do you play?
I
Oh,
used to be in a band. That's actually how I met my wife. I, it started off in a band in business school. We used to play all the NBA happy hours when I went to business school at UT on 6th Street. And then when we moved back to Dallas, I actually was still, some of the guys from the band were here and we were still playing some shows. And we were playing a show, and my wife's cousin's friend was also friends with me and randomly brought her to the show. And that's the first and only time I've ever picked up a girl playing guitar.
wow. Yeah, I haven't played guitar, but I think maybe I was envious of the guys with guitars that could beat women, right?
It only happened one time, but that was the only time I needed, man.
And are you from Dallas originally? We talked about it and I've forgotten.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Houston, moved to Dallas when I was 2, and I grew up here.
Okay, yeah, and then UT MBA, and then moved back to Dallas. So let's talk about your current business that you're primarily focused on right now, because it's pretty neat and innovative, and it's growing and dynamic. What about it?
Sure. It's called Sweet Leap. Um, my former company, which we'll probably get into in a minute, I had the experience of hiring a fractional CFO myself, and it was a real game changer for me as a business owner. And I was thinking, wow, why isn't everyone in the kind of small medium space have a fractional CFO? And what I realized is as I was growing that business, I could have used a fractional marketing person and a fractional HR person, a fractional operations person, a fractional technology person. And so I thought, why can't I just combine all of those under one roof and have a one-stop shop for fractional leadership across every major business discipline? So finance, marketing, operations, HR, sales, and technology. Because for me as a business owner, I thought the problem was I didn't have the right leader on my team to take me to the next level. But really, the problem was I didn't have the time, the resources, or knowledge to properly find and vet that right leader. And then when I did find them, I couldn't afford them because I didn't have three or $400,000 a year to spend on them. So what I really needed was the right expertise, the right leadership at the right time, at the right price. That's what with the right experience that would help me get to the next level. So that's really what we did at Sweet Leap is we brought together all those different functions to really help small, medium businesses figure out how they break through and get to the next level in the most cost efficient way with the right leadership team.
And so, what size businesses, what's the sweet spot for you think you're most able to help another company?
It's typically, we think about it from a revenue perspective. So typically it's businesses in the $5 to $50 million revenue range. Around that time, we typically find there's an inflection point where they've gotten the business up to the certain level, but they really need some additional expertise to come in and help break through whatever ceiling they're at. And so it's really industry agnostic because CEOs, founders, owners hit that level typically around that point where they really need that expertise, but they just can't afford that full-time person. So it's got that sweet spot where they need it, but they don't necessarily need or can afford that full-time person.
Sure. And there's some advantages, regardless, aren't there, of having not necessarily having a full-time person because they may have a wider perspective or view if they're working in multiple businesses and as opposed to one business their whole career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say a couple things about that. One is certainly having an outside perspective is very valuable. So being able to work on a bunch of different industries, a bunch of different businesses, and bringing that to bear to a company is super useful. But also, hiring a full-time person is risky and it can be expensive because if it doesn't work out, there's severance, and then if you hire them, there's benefits, there's bonuses, there's a lot of things that kind of go into a full-time hire versus bringing someone in with an outside perspective, but you don't have to pay them for vacation or for benefits or bonuses. And you only pay them for exactly the work they do. Because also a lot of time with the full-time hires, like you may not actually need them full-time, right? So maybe you're wasting some money because they aren't going to be utilized to their full potential, right? So it's really figuring out what the most efficient way is to get that expertise, because really what businesses need is that expertise. So I talked to a bunch of founders, and a lot of times they're like, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I know that I need marketing. I don't know what, I'm not a marketer. I don't know what type of help I need. Can I just please get someone in here to tell me what to do? To certainly help me from a strategy perspective, but also just to be a strategic thought partner and kind of talk through some things with me, help me figure out who the right team is. It's going to help us get to where we want to go.
And what is the profile of it, or you tell me, how would you describe the people that you bring on to place at founders companies?
Yeah.
A lot of gray hair, 40s. You don't have any gray hair, but
I got a little bit. I got a little bit here. It's a pretty wide variety. So we'll start with the grayest hair, where it's someone that is, for example, near retirement. They've been very successful, and maybe they only want to work 5 or 10 hours a week, but they love helping entrepreneurs. They love helping businesses. It's fun, but they're bringing all that experience to bear from years of either working in corporate or small business or some combination of both of those. Up to, or on the other end of the spectrum, which is someone that again has either been in corporate world or small business world, and they may not want to do the kind of classic corporate rat race where you're working for somebody else and dealing with all the politics. They like the ability to work with a wide variety of different clients, handling a wide variety of problems, where they can come in for 1 to 2 days a week typically and help these owners solve problems. And it's a very diverse set of experiences that folks bring. But I think universally, everyone gets excited because they can really make an impact in these small businesses. That's what they love, right? They can, if you work at a big corporation and it's $1 billion corporation and you make them $10 million a year, like who cares? It's not going to move the dial. But if you go into one of these small businesses and you're able to earn them an additional 1 million or 2 million a year, that's like life-changing generational type stuff. And I think that's what's really exciting to all of our folks, is really helping businesses in a very impactful and meaningful way, and helping them grow up and get to that next level. And the other thing I'll tell you is that these folks have a very wide range of experiences that they're bringing, and a lot of it is expertise. Typically, and to get back to your question, it's typically expertise from, I would say, on average, our folks have between 15 and 20 years of business experience that they're bringing. And a lot of times it's in one particular functional area. So HR, or being a CFO, or marketing. And so it's not only that particular functional experience, but it's just also the general business experience from being at big enterprise companies to some of these smaller companies too, and then bringing that experience to bear.
Wow, yeah. And you had a big career, I would call it, at American Airlines, 11 years, very precise on LinkedIn here, 11 years and 4 months.
There you go. Yes.
But director of Advantage Partner Marketing, and director of payment strategy, and senior manager. And so you had worked your way up. So you understand the difference of 5 to 50 million is the category of small business. I think that the government defines small business as under 400 people. But I think many people would say those are also they're large businesses too. It's not a one-man shop. It's not a solo entrepreneur. It's not a single franchise owner, but it's not American Airlines.
It's not American Airlines, no.
Thank goodness for American. We live in Dallas, Fort Worth, and just a different thing. What was it like at American Airlines?
I loved working at American Airlines. It was really where I started, I would say, in my professional career, and really where I cut my teeth. And as a newly kind of minted MBA, it's really cool because What they did, I'm not sure if they do it now, but what they did is they would essentially put you in a job and then move you around from year to year. So I was actually able to get a very large breadth of experience doing a bunch of things that I really had no business doing. So everything from corporate sales strategy to labor union negotiations to, you mentioned Advantage. I spent a bunch of time on the City Advantage team helping run the City Advantage credit card. But it was all about moving around and going into a job that you had no business being in, getting up to speed as quickly as possible and figuring out how you can add value. And what that does is it builds leaders from not necessarily like an expertise depth perspective, but more of a breadth perspective. So really giving it really gave me the skills to go into any type of business situation and figure out, hey, what's the problem and how can I add value? And so I loved that. I loved the people I worked with there. Absolutely top notch, super high class people. The issue for me was I'm just an entrepreneur at heart, and so I think it's not the most conducive to the entrepreneurial spirit.
Sure. Yeah. And speaking of that entrepreneurial spirit, was that from the spirit above that you had that when you were born, you think? And as a kid, you were scrapping
Maybe.
around, or something that you fell into when mentally when you thought, hey, I want to do something different?
Um, I was never like a lemonade stand kid where I was kind of going out and doing those things. Really, what it was is my father is an entrepreneur. He's owned his own photography business in Houston for 40 something years, doing party pics and graduations and weddings and bar mitzvahs, all that type of stuff. And I would actually every summer, he lived in Houston, I lived in Dallas. My parents separated when I was 2. I would go to Houston and essentially he would put me to work. And so I would work for him throughout the summer, like a 12-year-old kid taking pictures at a party, all the type of things. And I loved the lifestyle, the hustle. We would go to the arcade in the middle of the day and play video games. And I was like, this is great. And then go back to work. And I kind of loved that flexibility, but also just how he was handling all the problems and it was fun and exciting. And that always appealed to me. But the problem was, I never really had a good idea for what I was going to do. I was like, I always had in my heart that I wanted to do something similar and own my own business. But I didn't really have a great idea. I'm not really an idea. I'm not really an ideas guy at heart. But as far as executing stuff and the entrepreneur stuff, I love. And so I went through business school thinking that I'll go work for a company, get some experience, and go out on my own, having no idea what I was going to do. But I always kind of had that in my heart that I kind of wanted to follow after dad's footsteps.
And when you left, did you just leave and say, okay, I'm done? And were you married at the time?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was. I was. Oh,
And
when I left American?
yeah, when you left Americans. So that's a bit of a
Mhm.
leap. You say, oh, honey, don't give up the job. Wait a minute, how are we
Whew.
going to pay the bills? And
Yeah,
what
that
was
was
your first
scary.
step? Did you sit it? Yeah, scary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was scary. What happened was is I had a friend who we decided to start an urgent care business together, and I actually worked at American nights and weekends essentially for 2 years to get that business off the ground, working I don't know how many hours a week, doing a full-time job at American, and then also managing that other urgent care business because I wasn't going to feel comfortable leaving American until that business got to a point where it could provide at least some of the salary that I was getting on the American side. So once it got to the point where it was like I would call it a reasonable amount of income that I could expect, that's when I made the leap. But it took 2 years to get there.
That's long 2 years with working two jobs,
Yeah,
basically.
it
Um,
was 2 years, small kids at home, and a lot of sleepless nights. That was a wild time.
so that was the urgent care because you've got a few medical things on here, and then also safe work. I'm just looking at your LinkedIn to try to help me ask the right questions.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah, so it was the urgent care. I started a local urgent care business here in DFW. Along that, started a medical billing business essentially to service the urgent cares, other customers too. And I went into that really with no healthcare experience, very similar to my American Airlines deal. It's like, hey, it's just another business problem. Let's figure out how to solve it. But I did have a doctor that helped with the medical stuff. And we essentially jumped right into that, grew the urgent care business along the medical billing business kind of grew alongside that. And then there were some, I would call it adjacent businesses that were started because of the urgent care business. So you mentioned safe work. That was during COVID. We had the idea that businesses are going to need to do COVID testing in order to get their people back in the office. And so we actually went to businesses and would do remote testing for COVID at those businesses. So it was an interesting idea because a lot of businesses went the opposite way, which is like everyone's going to work from home, no one's going to go back into the office. But it was an interesting time of propping up a business in the middle of COVID to kind of help get people back to work. So that was one of those. We also started an ER physician staffing company and some other stuff, but all kind of adjacent in the healthcare world.
Whose idea was it to do the testing in the office?
I think that was my idea.
Yeah, yeah, you're not giving yourself credit for
Yeah,
being
okay,
the
you're right.
idea
Okay,
guy.
you're right. You're right. That was
Once in
my
a
idea.
while, once in a while.
Yeah, I did say I wasn't an ideas person.
Uh,
That one was my idea, but we enlisted some other partners and had some other help along the way.
it's interesting because you have a wide variety of experience, an entrepreneur, multiple entrepreneur series of businesses leading to this current one, and then you have the corporate background. So I think that would benefit your clients because you have that perspective. And of course, you're bringing to bear other experts for the client. You're not the one going in, I don't expect. Have you done that yourself? Have you gone into a company?
So yeah, actually, when I started off, I was like, and like all jobs, I like to do it myself first before I hire someone else for it. So I spent some time doing some fractional stuff. I still have one client where I'm their fractional CFO because I love it so much. I love the client. I love the work. So I spend a little time helping them and the rest of the time growing the business. But I think for my clients is that I have the enterprise experience in American. I started my own business, grew it from zero to $20 million. And so where I was the owner and the CEO, and I hired a fractional to come help me in that business. And then I'm also a fractional and I understand what that's like. So I feel like I have it covered from all the different angles, which makes it great because then I can partner with my clients and I can really understand and help them work through some of the same problems that I have and help them figure out what are the next pieces they need to put in place to get to get to the next level.
And because we got a chance to know each other before we came on, I think that most entrepreneurs and some of the biggest, I've forgotten how many times the Ford went bankrupt before he got started. I think it was three before he actually got the Ford going in the beginning, creating the Model Ts. One of your businesses was a tough ending. And there's a lot of value in that too, learning from that and understanding the feelings of that. Your clients are going through a tough time, the empathy, not that you wouldn't have empathy anyhow, but it's different when you've been through it.
Yeah, it's different when you've been through it. And I think a lot of a lot of it is knowledge, experience, a lot of it's luck. But I think the most important thing is taking those tough experiences and being like, what can I learn from them? And then making you more resilient and moving forward. There's We had a successful business. It didn't exactly end the way I wanted it to because of a partnership dispute, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have a successful business and I didn't learn a lot of stuff along the way. And so even though it wasn't like 10-figure exit for me, I still feel like I got a ton of super valuable experience that I can bring forward to others.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some stories that put you on the spot here where you've helped clients because they were stuck? You mentioned the marketing guy, right? But we didn't talk about, okay,
Yeah.
and then what? So, what are some then whats? They're here, they get your team to come in and help them, and then they're there.
Sure. Yeah, one of the ones off the top of my head is I had someone that came to me that said, "Hey," and for confidentiality purposes, I'm not going to say the particular client, but
Yeah.
they came to me and said I think about a $15 million company at the time, and they said, "Look, this company started from a guy in his pickup truck driving around doing stuff, and we've grown it to this $15 million company, but along the way, it's kind of organized chaos." Right? He's like, we're successful, but we're just kind of stumbling over each other. And really, we just need some more adults in the room. Can you just help us figure out what to do? We're not even sure where to start. So with that client, we had a full day strategy session, essentially being like, tell us all of your problems, tell us all the things that are going on. And from there, we were kind of able to figure out, okay, sounds like what you need are a few things. Number one is you need to have someone in kind of the president COO type seat, and they had someone there already that we agreed would move into that seat. And now it's okay, let's get a support structure around them. Number one is they probably had, call it 75 plus employees, and they had no one doing HR. You have a lot of, and they have a warehouse, so they had a lot of turnover. Let's get an HR person in here very quickly that can help you with the basics, the hiring, the firing, because what they had at that time was an open door policy. So all of the employees were going into the owners and crying on their shoulders, complaining, and that was taking up a lot of the owners' time. And so the first thing we did with them was we brought in HR, so that kind of alleviated that from the owners right away. So that was a huge time saver, but then now also the employees had a resource they could go to for all of their HR problems. The second thing was we've gotten revenue up to a certain point, but it's stalled. So what we did was we brought in a fractional chief commercialization officer, because really there what they needed was a combination of both sales and marketing. Someone that could take both aspects of the business, help commercialize it, make sure that both the sales and marketing were running together. So they had a sales team in place. They oversaw the sales team. And then on the marketing side, we rebranded everything, helped them with website redesign, market positioning, renamed the entire company actually, and have essentially empowered the sales team now with the right talking points, the right event strategy. And so we got that commercialization engine running. And then the other thing we did there is we actually, that person that we promoted into that COO president role, they had never been a COO or president before. So I actually had one of my fractional COOs come in and essentially, coaching is the wrong word, they worked alongside them to help them grow from this kind of baby COO into more mature COO, to make sure that they had the right structure in place, had the right systems, and really worked alongside them, where they weren't actually doing the COO work themselves, but they were helping the COO get to where they needed to be, to really build the rest of the organization to where it needed. So that's been a huge success story for them. We've essentially turned around their business, and turnaround is the wrong word. We've helped their business grow from a mom and pop, back of the pickup, non-organized, to a very clear org chart where people know what they're doing. We have a demand engine that's working. We have a support system for the COO. So they've increased their revenue by at least 50% and their profitability by at least that much over the course of about 18 months.
You said 50%?
50, yes.
Wow, yeah. And I imagine the stress is lower for the founder and the team and everybody working at the company as well.
That's exactly it. And for us, that's a real success story because they're a real partner of ours. It wasn't just, hey, do you have an HR person? It was, hey, let us partner with you and help you figure out who the right person is to bring in at the right time. Understand the business. And for all of our clients, for about 30% of our clients have more than one fractional working there. And those are the clients that we really love to work with because they recognize, hey, fractional is a thing that really works. And once it works once, they're like, who else do you have to help come in and help us grow this thing? And so that's exactly what it was there. It's like, man, like HR, this is working great. Like, what's next? And that's really the partners that we love, that we can work with and help them figure out, who do we need to bring in next? What other part of the business do we need to improve to get you guys going where you want to go?
So that's your trick, huh? It's like a drug. They want more.
Oldest trick in the book. Oldest trick in the book.
So that is actually what was striking me is I've had staffing agencies that have really helped me, and they're good at figuring out what kind of job. And we got our really important chief compliance officer in a prior business, but then they're done. And so, yeah, there may be cases where you're not as involved, but it seems very custom. It seems very custom. It's not a block and tackle. Boom, you need a CFO. There you go, Charlie. Let me know in a year how it's going, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some cases it is that way, but
that's exactly it. No, it's not that way. Each of our clients is assigned a client success manager. The whole idea is that we want to put the right fractional in place and then stick around to make sure that it works out. And so we're talking to the client, our company is every month, to make sure that the engagements are on track, the fractional is delivering what they say they're going to, that they're happy. And then we're also talking to the fractional too, to make sure that they are prioritizing the right thing the client wants them to, because really where things kind of go off track is where the client wants them to work on one thing, the fractional is like, I think I should be working on this. We want to kind of marry those two things that make sure that that both of them are on the same page. So I feel like there's this component of customer success, client success, whatever you want to call it, that has to be in place in order for these engagements to be long term and really for them to be successful, for the client to get the most out of them. And so in no way, we're definitely not an agency. We always stick around and we make sure that we partner with our clients to make sure things are going well.
You mentioned 1 to 2 days a week. You mentioned some different times. So is there a range? It may vary by specialty too. Human resources may be different than CFO.
Yeah.
But what's the range? 1 day a month or 1 day a week to 2 days a week, or what generally?
There's definitely a range. The overwhelming majority of our engagements are 1 or 2 days a week. We have some that are 3. We have some that are advisory, where it's 1 hour a week. The whole idea is it's customizable to the client, and it's also customizable month to month. Because as you talk to a lot of small business owners, things change and things change very quickly. And so part of working with us, and something for me that's important as a business owner, is flexibility, to make sure that, hey, we have a big thing coming up this month. We're gonna buy out an investor. We're gonna raise money, or we have a huge marketing push. So we want to give folks the ability to scale up if they need to, or hey, things are really slow. Let's scale down for 3 months. That's fine too. For me, what's important is, as a small business's needs change, and they change all the time, especially in a growth mode, we just want to be as flexible as possible, and really making sure. And I think that's where the client success comes in, making sure that the amount of time that is needed at the fractional is in line with what the company needs at any given moment or any month.
You're a very positive person, I feel like, from the moment I met you. Even the way you described the difficult exit. Yeah, but I learned a lot, which all that's true. But it's a positive way of looking at it. And what are some of the, like for you and your company, what is your challenge, biggest challenge maybe, or a challenge if it doesn't come to
Yeah,
mind?
no, that's good. For me and my current company, it's a good question. I'll tell you that and we may have
Just
talked
to
about
give
this.
just to give
What's
the
that?
audience an idea, if I recall right, you have 100 different people placed, or maybe they're not all placed at this moment, but just in that range. So we're not talking about 5 people here. You've got a pretty big reach and quite a number of clients. And
Mhm.
I know you built a great team to get there. And of course, your people that you're putting in place by the nature of your business are experts themselves.
Mhm.
Um, and yet that's a sizable organization right now for
Mhm.
you.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. So yeah, with every business there are challenges, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're doing the same things that we're telling our clients to do. But it's
Oh,
for
look in the
me.
mirror, right? Look
Yeah,
in the mirror.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so it's making sure that we have the absolute best people to place at our clients, for sure. Part of it, I think, for us also is I would call it service delivery. So we are not at the client every single day, like understanding all those interactions. So for us, a challenge is making sure that we give the fractional leader enough leeway to do what they want to do, but also make sure that it is up to the quality that we want it to be. So it's that combination of using our frameworks, assessments, and then also making sure the fractional is bringing their experience to bear in the best way possible. So like, how do we make sure that from the client's perspective, they're getting the most value out of it and it's the best experience and they're getting the absolute best person? That's what we think about all the time. And most of the time it works out. We're getting better at it. We've done probably, I don't know, somewhere maybe 40 plus, maybe 50 engagements. I can have count maybe 2 or 3 times where the fractional it wasn't the right fit, or they underperformed. So our success rate is really good, but I'm always thinking about how I can make it better and how I can add more value to the client.
Continuous improvements, from what I've heard from you and from others, is that it's definitely working. But as you said, things are always changing. We have to change with it, and continuous improvement is part of life for, I think, entrepreneurs and people like you that are doing this kind of business.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents anyhow.
Agreed.
Hey, that's a pretty good wrap up. Unless there's something you'd like to add, I really appreciate you coming on. You can what's the how would they reach out to you or to your company, or what's the website? I'll let you say it.
Sure. So it's Sweet Leap, SUITE, Leap, LEAP.com. You can contact us there, my LinkedIn. Those are the two best ways to get in touch with us. And yeah, even if a lot of times we talk to folks that may not know about fractional, they may be fractionally curious, try to learn a little bit more. And a lot of what we do is just figure out, hey, is fractional a fit for you? A lot of times I tell people it's not. Maybe their problems are too small, like they need a bookkeeper versus a fractional CFO, or their problems are way too big and they need to hire a full-time person. And so because it's not the right fit for everyone, so a lot of what we do with folks is just exploratory conversations just to figure out whether it's a fit. If it is, we can help. If not, then we'll refer you to the right place you need to be.
Oh, yeah. And I was going to say, oh, yeah. So regions, one thing we didn't talk about for people that might want to contact you,
Yep.
where will you go? Where will your company help other businesses?
We can look, because of remote, we can work anywhere. We do a lot of work in the DFW area, but we also have fractional leaders really all across the country. We have a couple international actually too. We have clients across the country too. So if folks are open to remote work, then we absolutely do that. We can fly out to see them too. It's really, region is not a problem for us.
Your business is remote, isn't that correct?
What's that?
Your business itself is remote, right? The way you run your business.
We are, yeah, because we spend a lot of time in our clients' offices, and so we are all remote.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it's almost a test. If you can't run your own business remote, how are you going to run remotely everybody else's business?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, we prefer to be in our clients' offices versus our office. That's what we like to do.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Zach. And I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks, Henry. Appreciate it, buddy.
Alrighty.
Thank you for watching Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business and Finance podcast here on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can also search Henry Harrison Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.